The alien ship drifted in silence. No signal, no lights, no sound. Only cold metal floating in the endless dark of space. The rescue vessel from Earth approached slowly, its engines quiet, its crew tense. Every man and woman on board felt it. Something terrible had happened here. Captain Elias stood at the front window. His face was hard, his eyes fixed on the broken alien craft. The hull was scarred by burns. A section of the ship looked torn open, like claws had ripped through it. No movement came from inside. No life signs could be trusted. But there had been one faint distress signal, repeated again and again before cutting out. That was why the humans had come. Status? Elias asked. His voice was steady, but under it ran a sharp line of worry. Lieutenant Mira, the ship's engineer, checked her scanner. Minimal power left. Life support is gone. Oxygen almost empty. Captain, if anyone is alive in there, they won't last long. The crew exchanged grim looks. Everyone knew what that meant. Time was already against them. The docking arms extended, connecting the human rescue vessel to the silent alien ship. The hiss of pressure locks filled the air. Suits sealed, helmets locked. The humans prepared to step into a place of death. Inside, the alien ship was dark. Emergency lights flickered faint red, showing broken corridors and floating debris. The air was thin, weak, almost gone. Each breath came with effort. The human crew moved carefully, flashlights cutting through the gloom. It was Mira who found them first. She entered what looked like a shelter room. Her beam of light swept across the floor, and her heart froze. "Captain," she whispered into the comm, "I got survivors." There were 6 figures. 5 were human, crew members from another Earth ship that must have been traveling with the alien vessel. They lay weak and pale, each of them barely conscious, some clutching their chests as if every breath was a battle. And among them, lying on the floor with skin pale blue and markings across his face, was one alien. He was larger than the humans, his body strange but still humanoid in shape. His chest rose and fell slowly, painfully. His breathing sounded broken, a wheeze that echoed in the silent chamber. The alien's eyes flickered open for a second when Mira shined a light on him, then closed again. The captain and the others arrived, crowding into the room. For a moment, nobody spoke. They all stared at the 6 lives in front of them. 5 human, 1 alien, all dying. Dr. Haroon, the medic, dropped to his knees and scanned quickly. "Their oxygen levels are near 0, he said. "They need supply tanks now, or they won't last even an hour." Elias tapped his comm, "Ship AI, oxygen status." The cold, flat voice of the computer answered. "Emergency supplies available, 1 standard tank. Duration, 24 hours. Enough to sustain 1 life. Probability of survival for more than 1 individual, 0%. The words hit the crew like ice. Enough oxygen for 1 person. Not for 6. Not for all of them. For 1. No one spoke for a moment. The silence felt heavier than space itself. Mira looked at the alien again. His breathing rattled, shallow and weak. If they followed logic, they would save the humans first. 1 alien life against 5 human lives was no choice at all. And yet, something in the room made it hard to say out loud. One of the rescued humans, barely awake, whispered weakly, "Please, help him. Don't let him die." Then he fainted again. The crew exchanged glances. A bond had clearly formed between these humans and the alien. Something had happened before they were found. Something important. And now, the humans on Elias's crew faced the same choice. Who deserved to breathe? Who deserved to live? "Captain," Mira said softly, "what do we do?" Elias did not answer. He stared at the 6 survivors, his jaw tight. He knew what the computer had said. He knew the math. But he also knew something else. Humanity had built its place in the stars not just with machines, not just with weapons, but with a spirit that refused to abandon others. That spirit now stood against the cold numbers. The alien stirred again, his voice rough and broken, words in a language their translators struggled to keep up with. Save your own, not me. He was willing to give his life. But could the humans accept that? Could they watch him die when he had fought to live with them? The ticking of time pressed down on them. Every second mattered. Oxygen was vanishing. The line between life and death grew thinner. With each breath, the crew felt it deep in their lungs, as if they too were choking. Elias finally spoke, his voice quiet but firm. We are not deciding yet. We will not give up, not while even one chance remains. The AI repeated its cold logic. Oxygen, one life only. Survival rate, 100% if reserved, 0% if shared. But the humans ignored it for now. They had found 6 lives on the edge of death. And humanity's story was never about cold numbers. It was about choices, about what kind of people they were in the darkest moments. And in that broken ship, with air running out and 6 survivors gasping for breath, the humans knew this was a test that would decide everything. The room was silent, except for the faint wheeze of the alien and the shallow gasps of the 5 humans on the floor. The rescue crew stood frozen, helmets off now, feeling the thin air pressing on their lungs. The numbers from the ship's AI still echoed in their ears. 1 oxygen tank, 6 survivors. A choice no one wanted to make. Captain Elias felt the weight of command pressing harder than ever. His duty was to protect his crew, but his duty was also to protect humanity's honor. He looked at the faces around him, Mira, Haroon, Jace the pilot, and the 2 others. All of them waited for him to speak. The AI is clear, Jace said at last. His voice was sharp, but his hands trembled. We can save 1 person. 1. That's the truth. If we waste time debating, we'll lose even that chance. Mira turned on him instantly. You call it a waste? These are lives. 5 humans, Jace, and an ally who fought with them. You choose so quickly who deserves to breathe. Jace swallowed. His jaw tightened. I'm saying the facts. We can't save them all. You know it. Dr. Haroon knelt again beside the alien, scanning his chest. The alien's lungs are failing faster than the others, he reported. Even if we gave him the tank, his odds are not high. If we want the best chance of survival, the logical choice is one of the humans. The words hung heavy in the air. Logical choice. Safe choice. But logic alone never ruled humanity's path through the stars. Elias stared down at the alien. His face was strange but not unkind. His body bore scars from battles and burns. His strength was failing, but even in weakness he tried to push the oxygen mass away when Haroon lifted it near. His cracked voice rasped, "Humans must live, not me." The translator stuttered as it carried his words across the comm. Not me, save them. Even dying, he thought of others. Even gasping for air, he chose them before himself. One of the human survivors stirred on the floor. His eyes fluttered open, looking at Elias. His lips cracked, voice weak as dust. Don't let him die. He saved us all. Then he slipped back into unconsciousness. The crew froze again. The alien had saved them. That was the piece missing from the puzzle. He was not just some stranger pulled from a void. He had already paid a price for humanity. Now humanity had to choose whether to return that gift or let him die. Myra's voice broke the silence. "Captain, if we take the alien sacrifice, what are we? If we prove the AI right, that numbers matter more than honor, what will we tell Earth? That we abandoned a friend." Jace slammed his fist against the wall. "And if we try to save them all, we kill everyone. No one survives on half a breath." Do you want their deaths on your hands? Do you want their families to know we let them choke when one could have lived? Haroon shook his head. I became a doctor to heal, not to choose who dies. This choice is poison. Elias listened to them all, his chest tight. He knew the truth in Jace's words. He knew the desperation in Myra's. He knew the pain in Haroon's. And yet, no voice offered the answer he sought. The AI spoke again, cold and final. Warning, oxygen in this chamber will reach fatal levels within 30 minutes. Recommend immediate assignment of supply tank to one survivor. 30 minutes. That was the countdown. That was the edge of the blade. Mira stepped forward, looking at Elias. Her eyes burned. Captain, I will not stand by and watch us throw away what makes us human. Numbers are not everything. If this alien saved humans before, then we owe him. If he dies while we live, we dishonor that debt. We must find another way. Jay snapped back. Another way? There is no other way. You can't invent air. The AI has run the numbers. You've seen the display. 0% chance if we share it. 0. That means death. Mira did not flinch. Then let us face death together before we betray who we are. Her words filled the air like a spark. For a moment, no one spoke. No one even breathed. Elias felt the weight of command pressing harder, like gravity in his chest. The alien coughed, weak, his voice cracking. Humans, stubborn. Always stubborn. He gave a faint, broken laugh, even as blood flecked his lips. That is why we trusted you. Haroon shook his head, whispering, He trusts us, Captain, even as he dies. The minutes ticked away. The AI repeated its cold reminder. One tank, one life, one chance. Elias closed his eyes for a moment. He saw Earth. He saw the first colonies. He saw the battles fought, the treaties signed, the lives lost for a dream larger than any one person. He saw what it meant to be human, not just survival, but the refusal to surrender compassion even in the darkest night. He opened his eyes, steady now. His voice was firm. We are not animals. We are not machines. We will not choose one life over 6. We will share it. Jace's face went pale. Captain, that means... I know what it means. Elias cut in, but if humanity falls today, it will not be because we betrayed our spirit. We will fight for every breath, every life, even his. The crew stared at him, the decision now made. Fear and hope burned in their eyes together. Suspense hung heavy in the failing air. The clock was ticking. The test had begun. The chamber was filled with silence, broken only by the sound of strained breathing. The humans had made their choice. They would not abandon anyone. They would share the oxygen, no matter what the AI said. But as the crew began to rig makeshift tubes from the single tank, Captain Elias noticed something. The alien's eyes were open, not fully, but just enough to look at him. There was a story in those eyes. Pain, yes, but also something else. A history, a reason why these 5 human survivors would beg for his life, even on their last breath. Elias crouched beside him. You saved them, didn't you? He asked quietly. The alien blinked slowly, as if even that effort cost him strength. His lips parted, and through the translator came a whisper. I did not let them die. Could not. The words were faint, broken, but they carried weight. Haroon, still kneeling nearby, adjusted the scanner. Captain, he's fading. But maybe if he talks, we'll understand why they would give their last breath for him. Elias nodded. Then let him speak. The crew gathered close. The alien's chest rose and fell in painful rhythm. His voice came haltingly. Every word dragged from the edge of death. But the story he told burned into the minds of every human in that room. It had begun weeks ago, when a convoy of human ships had been ambushed near a border system. Raiders, pirates who preyed on trade routes, had struck fast. Lasers had burned through hulls. Engines had failed. Ships had been torn apart in the black void. Among the convoy had been the alien's vessel. He had been a commander of his people, traveling with the humans on a mission of trust. His kind had not always been close to humanity, but peace had been building brick by brick, breath by breath. He had seen the humans as more than allies. He had seen them as brothers and sisters in a dangerous galaxy. When the raiders attacked, it was the alien who had fought back first. His ship, though smaller, carried weapons of a different design, blades of light, shields that bent under pressure but did not break. He had thrown his vessel into the line of fire, taking blasts that would have torn the human ships apart. The humans in the chamber could almost see it as he spoke. His ship burning, systems screaming, yet still pushing forward. He had ordered his crew to keep firing, even as the hull crumbled. For every human ship that escaped, another wound struck his vessel. Finally, the last raider's ship had turned its guns toward the slowest human freighter, a ship with no weapons, carrying families and children, and the alien had made his choice. He rammed his ship into the raider. Metal tore. Fire bloomed. Both ships spiraled into ruin. The freighter lived. The alien's crew did not. Somehow, broken and burning, he had survived the wreck. The humans he had saved pulled him from the fire. From that moment on, they refused to leave him behind. He had given everything for them. They would give everything for him. The alien's voice weakened as he finished a memory. His chest rattled, his eyes closing again. But before he drifted into silence, he whispered one more truth. Humans are worth dying for. The translator repeated the words, soft and broken, and the chamber fell into stillness once more. Myra's eyes glistened. She looked at Elias, her voice steady but full of fire. Now you see why we cannot let him die. He fought for us. He gave his people for us. If we let him go now, we betray not just him, but ourselves. Haroon nodded slowly. He believed in us when he had no reason to. Even at the edge of death, he calls us worth it. How could we answer that with silence? Jace turned away, running a hand over his face. His voice shook with anger, but not at them, at the situation. Damn it, this isn't fair. One tank, one life, and we're supposed to play gods with it. Elias rose to his feet, his decision burning clearer with each breath of thin air. No, we are not gods. We are human, and humans repay their debts. If he risked his life for us, then we will risk ours for him. The AI interrupted, its cold tone cutting into the heat of the moment. Reminder, survival probability is 0% if oxygen is shared. Recommend immediate reassessment of decision. Mira spat at the ceiling. Your numbers don't measure honor. They don't measure sacrifice. They don't measure what it means to be human. The alien stirred faintly, his cracked lips curling into what might have been the ghost of a smile. Jace, still torn, finally exhaled and nodded. Fine, we do it your way. But don't expect me to thank anyone when we're all choking together. Elias looked around at his crew, then at the 6 lives on the floor. No, we won't choke together. We will fight together. And maybe, just maybe, that will be enough. The minutes of oxygen slipped away, but the crew no longer felt like victims of fate. They felt like fighters again, ready to spit in the face of death. The alien had given them a past to remember. Now it was their turn to write the future. The crew worked fast, setting up makeshift tubes from the single oxygen tank. The hiss of air filled the chamber, thin streams flowing to the masks fitted over 6 faces. It was not enough. Everyone knew it. The breaths came shallow, weak, barely scratching at survival. But still it was something. Time stretched. Each second felt like a hammer, striking their ribs. The alien stirred once, his chest rising with effort, then fell still again. The humans on the floor shivered, their skin pale, their eyes half closed. The crew of the rescue ship stood around them, fighting the fear inside their own lungs. The numbers haunted them. 1 tank, 0% chance of divided. Every breath was borrowed time. Jace broke the silence. His voice was sharp, almost angry, but beneath it was desperation. We can't keep this up. Sharing it like this, it will only drag out the suffering. No one will live. Mira turned on him, her eyes blazing. So what? You want to pull the tubes away from 5 people and watch them die, just so one person lives a little longer? That's not survival, Jace. That's murder with a mask on. Jace's jaw clenched. It's called facing reality. Someone has to make the choice. We draw lots. One person gets the tank. The rest, he did not finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The words hung in the air like poison. Draw lots. Leave it to chance. Decide who breathes and who doesn't with a simple pull of fate. Dr. Haroon shook his head, his face pale. You asked me to stand by and watch 5 people die so one may live? I am a doctor. My hands are made to heal, not to choose victims. Jace fired back. And if your refusal kills all 6, what then? You'll have healed nothing. You'll have failed everyone. The chamber trembled with the weight of the argument. Tension rose like fire. Even the rescued humans, half conscious, seemed to sense it. One of them, a woman with cracked lips, whispered faintly, "Don't fight. Please," before slipping back into silence. Then came the alien's voice, weak but clear enough to stop them. "Stop this. End the debate. Save yourselves. Use the tank. Leave me." The translator carried the words across the room, cold and plain. The alien's head turned slowly, his eyes dim but still burning with strange light. "I chose to give my life once. I can do it again. Do not waste your air on me." His words hit them harder than any blow. Even at the edge of death, he offered himself up so they would not have to suffer the choice. Mira shook her head fiercely. No, we will not let you die like this. If you gave your life once, that debt has already been paid. We won't betray you now. Jace's hands trembled, his anger breaking into frustration. This is madness. Noble words won't create air. Heroic speeches won't keep us alive. Captain Elias, who had been silent through the storm, finally spoke. His voice was calm, but every syllable carried steel. Jace is right about one thing. We cannot create air, but we can choose how we face death. And we do not face it like cowards. We face it as humans, together. Jace stared at him, torn between loyalty and fear. And if we all die, Elias met his eyes without blinking. Then we die as we lived, protecting each other, refusing to surrender the one thing machines will never understand, our spirit. The words settled deep in the hearts of the crew. Even Jace felt it, though his fear gnawed at him. Mira stepped closer to Elias, nodding. He's right. We can't let fear decide for us. Not now. Haroon placed his hand over the alien's chest, feeling the faint rhythm beneath. If this is the end, then let be an end that means something. The alien gave a faint, broken laugh. Humans, foolish, but noble. Silence fell again, heavy but no longer divided. The crew had chosen their path. No drawing lots. No sacrifice of one for the others. They would fight together, even if the odds were 0. Still, the fear was real. Every breath was weaker than the last. Sweat beaded on foreheads. Hands shook. The thin trickle of air from the tank could not hold forever. The AI's voice cut through, cold and merciless. Survival probability update, 0%. Estimated time to fatal oxygen depletion, 20 minutes. Jace cursed under his breath. 20 minutes. That's all. But Elias stood tall, his voice unbroken. Then in 20 minutes, we show the galaxy what it means to be human. The crew looked at him, and though their lungs ached, their hearts burned with a strange fire. Fear had not vanished, but something greater now rose above it. This was a test, not of oxygen, not of machines, but of spirit. And as the ship drifted in silence, as 6 survivors clung to life on breaths too small to matter, the humans decided. They would not bow to numbers. They would not betray their own. The galaxy would remember this moment, the moment humanity's spirit stood taller than death itself. The air was thin, too thin. Every breath from the jury-rigged tubes carried less strength than the one before. The hiss of oxygen splitting between 6 mouths was almost mocking. The tank was designed for one person, and now 6 lives clawed at it like drowning hands reaching for a single rope. Captain Elias felt his chest ache, his lungs screaming for more than the trickle of air that reached him. He ignored it. His eyes stayed locked on the survivors, lying across the chamber floor. The alien stirred faintly, his pale blue skin glistening with sweat. His chest rose shallow, then fell with a weak rattle. The humans beside him were no better. Faces drained, lips cracked, their eyes only half open. Dr. Haroon adjusted the flow lines, checking the makeshift connections again. His voice was tired, but steady. It's holding for now. But this division wasn't meant to work. Any shift, any damage, and we'll lose pressure. Mira crouched beside the alien, watching his breath. Her jaw tightened. We'll keep it steady. We'll make it work. But Jace shook his head, his voice sharp. You're lying to yourself, Mira. This isn't going to work. We're all choking a little slower. That's all. He glanced at Elias, his tone hard. Captain, we need another plan. Something real, or we're not lasting 20 minutes. The AI's voice cut in, cold and without mercy. Warning! Oxygen depletion progressing. Estimated fatal threshold in 18 minutes. Probability of collective survival remains 0%. Mira slammed her fist against the wall. Shut up, she snapped. But the words offered no comfort. The machine was only repeating the numbers they all already felt in their lungs. Elias stayed calm, though the ache in his chest grew deeper. His mind raced, searching for anything, any option beyond waiting to suffocate. He looked at Mira. Engines. Could we move the ship? She frowned. Engines are half dead. Power cells nearly gone. If we light them up, we'll drain everything. Maybe we could crawl toward the nearest outpost, but it's far. Too far. Haroon added softly. And even if we reach them, the oxygen will run out long before then. Jace threw up his hands. So what? We waste the last of our power to drift closer, just to die choking in a dead shell? That's your big plan. Elias's gaze hardened. It's better than waiting. Myra's brow furrowed as she thought deeper. Wait, maybe not engines. What about emergency thrusters? They use less power. If we fire short bursts, we might push ourselves closer without burning everything. Jay scoffed. Closer to what? The nearest human outpost is days away. Days, not minutes. But Haroon's head snapped up. What about a beacon? Could we send a distress pulse? Even a fragment of signal might reach them faster than we can. Myra's hands flew to her datapad, fingers racing. The comms are fried. Antenna's gone. But the navigation computer is still alive. If I reroute power, maybe I can force a distress ping through the NAV array. Elias's eyes sharpened. Do it. Mira looked at him. If I do that, we lose navigation. The ship goes blind. No coordinates. No control. The captain didn't flinch. Do it anyway. We need help more than we need eyes. She hesitated only a second, then nodded. Her fingers flew faster, pulling wires, twisting circuits, forcing the ship's dying systems to carry one last message of hope. Sparks burst once, the smell of ozone filling the air, but she pressed on. Finally, she looked up, sweat dripping from her brow. Signal sent. Weak, but it's out there. The crew exhaled as one. A tiny hope in a sea of dark, but Jace shook his head again. Hope doesn't fill lungs. We're still going to die in here. The alien stirred. His cracked voice rasped through the translator. Risk is human way. Always risk. His words were broken, but they cut deep, even at the edge of death. He recognized something they all carried, that stubborn fire to gamble against impossible odds. Elias crouched beside him. Yes, we risk, because we don't give up. Not on you, not on anyone. The alien's lips curved faintly, a ghost of a smile. Minutes passed. Every second stretched into agony. Breaths grew shorter. Vision blurred at the edges. The survivors twitched weakly on the floor, their strength nearly gone. Mira checked the oxygen meter. Her voice broke. 5 minutes left, maybe less. Haroon's hands trembled as he looked down at the alien. He won't last that long. Elias stood, his chest heaving. He turned to Jace. Pilot, engines, now. Jace stared at him. Engines? You can't be serious. Now. Elias barked. For a heartbeat, Jace froze. Then training took over. He ran to the console, his hands flying across the dying controls. Power surged, weak and flickering. The ship groaned as the engines lit, a sound like an old giant waking from its grave. The hull rattled. Panels shook. The survivors moaned on the floor as the ship began to lurch forward. The stars outside shifted slowly. We're moving, Jay said, disbelief in his voice. Not fast, barely crawling, but we're moving. The AI confirmed in its flat tone. Trajectory adjusted. Heading toward nearest human beacon. Arrival estimated in 34 hours. Oxygen available, 3 minutes. The numbers stabbed like knives. 34 hours. 3 minutes. The gap was impossible. Mira bit her lip hard, shaking her head. We'll never make it. Elias's eyes burned. Then we'll do the impossible. The crew gathered again around the survivors. The oxygen lines hissed weaker now, barely a whisper of air. The alien coughed, his breath wet with blood. One of the humans stirred faintly, lips whispering a word that the crew barely heard. Please. Haroon clenched his jaw, tears in his eyes. Captain, if we don't increase flow, they'll suffocate in seconds. Elias nodded. Then increase it. Mira gasped. That'll drain the tank instantly. Elias's voice was calm, steady. Better they breathe strong for a few minutes than weak and fading. Maybe the signal will bring help faster than we think. Haroon hesitated, then obeyed. He turned the valve. The hiss grew louder, oxygen flowing stronger into the 6 masks. The survivors gasped, chests rising deeper, fuller. Color returned faintly to their faces. The alien's eyes fluttered open again. For the first time, his breath sounded real. Mira stared at the captain. You just shortened our time to nothing. Elias met her eyes. No, I gave them a chance to live these last breaths fully. And maybe the galaxy will answer. The seconds ticked. The ship groaned forward. Oxygen drained faster. The AI's voice came once more, cold as ever. Warning. Oxygen depletion imminent. Fatal threshold in 60 seconds. The crew braced themselves. Fear burned in their lungs. Hope flickered in their hearts. 60 seconds. 1 minute. That was all. The alien's voice, weak but steady, whispered into the silence, "Together or not at all." Elias looked at him, then at his crew. His voice rose strong, even through the choking air. Together, always together. And in that moment, though death hovered close, humanity's choice was clear. They would fight for every breath, even if it was the last. They would not abandon each other. They would not abandon him. For in the endless night of space, when all numbers spoke of failure, only one truth remained. Humans never surrendered their spirit. The ship groaned like a wounded beast as the engines flickered to life. Each pulse of thrust felt like it might be the last, a dying heartbeat pushing metal through the endless dark. The hull rattled, bolts screamed, and sparks leapt from broken panels. Inside, the humans and their alien ally clung to survival. The oxygen hiss had fallen to almost nothing now. Every breath was a fight, every inhale shallow and thin. Vision blurred, hearts pounded, but still they breathed together. Captain Elias stood at the center, his chest rising hard, his voice steady despite the suffocating air. "Jace, report." Jace, hunched over the pilot's console, coughed into his fist before answering. "Engines holding, for now. Navigation's blind since Mira rewired the array for the distress signal. We're flying half dead, Captain, drifting more than steering." Mira, seated at the floor with tools scattered around her, wiped sweat from her brow. "Blind or not, we're moving. That's better than waiting here to choke." The AI interrupted in its cold, merciless tone. "Trajectory remains unstable. Estimated time to human outpost, 34 hours. Oxygen supply depleted." The crew froze at the final word. Depleted. Haroon looked at the oxygen tank's gauge. The needle trembled at 0. His throat clenched as he whispered, "We're out." The words felt like a death sentence. The survivors on the floor stirred faintly, gasping for what little remained in the room's air. The alien's chest rattled, his breath ragged, yet his eyes flickered open again. Elias's jaw tightened. "No, we're not done yet. Not until we have nothing left to give." Jace turned on him. "We already have nothing. Look at them. Look at us. We're dying, Captain, and you want us to pretend a miracle's coming." Elias met his gaze without blinking. "Yes, because miracles only come to those who fight for them." The words silenced Jace, though his hands trembled on the console. The ship shuddered violently as a thruster flared, sending them into a slow spin. Mira cursed, rushing to stabilize the system. Sparks burst as she forced the circuit board back into place. "The thrusters are cooking themselves alive. Captain, at this rate, we'll tear apart before we reach anyone." Elias nodded grimly. "Then we'll hold them together, stitch by stitch, second by second. That's how humanity has always survived." Haroon knelt again beside the alien, checking his pulse. "He's fading faster. Without oxygen, I can't hold him. Even the humans on the floor won't last long. The weak will go first." The alien's cracked lips parted. Through the translator came faint words. "Leave me. Save yourselves." Mira shook her head fiercely. "We told you before, we don't leave anyone behind." The alien coughed weakly, blood staining his chin, but his eyes glowed faint with respect. Stubborn humans, always stubborn. Even Jace's anger faltered at that. He muttered, "Maybe stubborn's all we have left." Time passed like a blade cutting thinner and thinner. Minutes stretched into hours. The air inside grew stale, every breath heavier, every inhale filled with the taste of metal and smoke. The human crew staggered as they worked, their strength draining with each movement. Mira collapsed once, her hands slipping from her tools. Elias caught her, pulling her back to her feet. She shook her head, forcing herself upright again. "I'm fine. Just need to keep going." Jace wiped blood from his nose, his body shaking. This is madness. We're all going to die fixing a ship that should already be in its grave. But Elias stood firm. Better to die fighting than waiting. You know that. Jay stared at him, then turned back to console, his voice low. You're damn right I do. At hour 3, the alien spoke again, his words rasping through the translator. I can guide you. My people know these stars. Blind, yes, but I see them still. Elias crouched beside him. You can navigate? The alien nodded weakly. Star patterns, gravitational pulls. I memorized them long ago. Turn the ship 2 degrees starboard. Fire thrusters 3 seconds. Jace frowned. We're trusting a half-dead alien's memory over real sensors? Elias's voice was firm. We're trusting a friend. Do it. Jace hesitated, then obeyed. The ship lurched, thrusters firing in short bursts. Slowly, the spin steadied, and the stars outside aligned into something resembling a course. The alien closed his eyes, whispering, Yes, this way. Elias's chest tightened, not from the air, but from the truth. Even broken, even dying, the alien fought to guide them. He would not let them drift blind. Hours dragged on. The oxygen was gone, but the humans fought for each gas of stale air. Their bodies grew weaker, slower, but their wills did not break. Haroon worked beside Mira, sealing hull fractures with strips of metal scavenged from the walls. If this doesn't hold, the vacuum will take us before the air runs out, he muttered. Mira coughed, her lungs burning. Then it'll hold, because it has to. The alien stirred again, whispering coordinates, guiding thruster burns, adjusting their path by fractions. Jace followed, doubt etched in every movement. But each correction brought the ship closer to a stable line. At one point, Jace looked back at Elias. He's actually doing it, guiding us. I don't believe it, but it's working. Elias gave the faintest smile. Believe it? That's what he does. That's what we all do. At hour 10, exhaustion nearly crushed them. The survivors on the floor slipped in and out of consciousness. Their chests rose weakly, their bodies pale. Haroon's hands trembled as he checked pulses. 2 of them barely hanging on. The alien wheezed, his voice faint. Keep them alive. Do not stop. Elias leaned closer. Why do you fight so hard for us, even now? The alien's eyes opened a fraction, glowing faintly. Because once humanity fought for me. Now I return it. Together we are stronger. The translator's words filled the chamber. And for a moment, the humans forgot their choking lungs. They remembered why they fought at all. Then, at hour 12, a sound pierced the silence. A faint ping. Myra's eyes widened. Signal. It's faint, but it's there. Someone heard our distress call. The crew froze, hearts racing. Hope surged like fire through their weak bodies. The AI confirmed in its cold tone. Incoming response detected. Human beacon acknowledged. Estimated arrival of rescue vessel. 8 hours. 8 hours. The humans stared at each other, the numbers cutting both ways. Hope and despair in the same breath. 8 hours until rescue. But could they last even one? Jace whispered, his voice shaking. 8 hours might as well be forever. Mira, clench your fists. Then we make forever. We fight for every second. Elias's voice rose, steady and unbreakable. We've come this far. We will not stop now. Not when rescue is on its way. We fight until they find us. The alien coughed, his breath rattling, but his lips curved faintly. Yes, fight to the end. And so they did. The ship trembled onward, held together by human hands and alien guidance. Airless, broken, yet still alive. Every second was a battle. Every breath was stolen from the void. The humans staggered, collapsed, rose again. The alien whispered coordinates, his memory their only map, and above them all, Elias stood tall, his spirit unyielding. The numbers said 0. The odds said none. The galaxy said impossible. But humanity did not listen, because for them, impossible was only another word for the risks worth taking. The ship groaned under the weight of its own survival. The hull shook, engines screamed, and the air inside felt more like poison than breath. Yet still, life clung stubbornly within those walls. The crew was nearly broken. Their chests rose in shallow gasps, their eyes glassy, their lips cracked and dry. The 5 human survivors lay on the floor, barely moving. The aliens' breaths came ragged. Every inhale a battle, every exhale a surrender delayed. But above it all, Captain Elias still stood, his spine straight, his voice steady, his eyes locked on the future. "Report," he rasped, though his throat burned raw. Jace forced himself upright at the console, sweat dripping down his pale face. Engines still firing. Barely. Navigation, nothing. We're flying blind, except for his directions. He gestured weakly toward the alien, who stirred faintly, whispering coordinates. Mira sat slumped against the wall, clutching her toolkit. Her voice was hoarse, but it carried fire. The beacon still transmitting. Rescue ship 8 hours out. Haroon shook his head as he knelt by the survivors. 8 hours is a lifetime we don't have. 2 of them are already slipping. Their lungs can't fight any longer. The AI's voice cut through again, merciless as always. Warning. Oxygen levels critically depleted. Fatal threshold approaching. Estimated survival time, 22 minutes. The words stabbed like knives. 22 minutes. Rescue was hours away. The math was final. The numbers said death. Elias closed his eyes for a moment, then looked at his crew. We are not numbers. We never were. The alien stirred, his voice barely more than a whisper through the translator. You cannot win this. Save yourselves. Leave me. Mira pushed herself closer to him, shaking her head fiercely. We told you before. That's not who we are. We don't leave anyone. The alien's dim eyes glowed faintly, shimmering with something that might have been sorrow or admiration. Humans always refusing. He gave a weak laugh, then coughed, blood staining his lips. That is why I trusted you. Jay slammed a fist against the console, his anger breaking into despair. Trust won't keep us alive. We can't last 8 hours. We can't last 1. Elias stepped forward, his voice cutting through the chamber. Then we'll last as long as it takes, even if it's 1 second at a time. Minutes crawled by. The survivors gasped weakly, their bodies trembling. Mira tried to restart an auxiliary scrubber, hoping for even a trace of clean air, but the machine coughed once and died. Jace rerouted thrusters again, his hands shaking so badly he nearly collapsed. Haroon pressed on the chest of one of the fainting survivors, forcing shallow breaths in the lungs that had nearly given up. Every act was futile, every action a finger pressed against a collapsing dam. But none of them stopped. The alien whispered another set of coordinates. Jace obeyed, firing thrusters for 2 seconds. The ship groaned but shifted. Their course adjusted again, inching close to salvation. Elias looked down at him. Why keep guiding us? You're dying. The alien's voice cracked, but his words were steady. Because I am not dead yet, and while I live, I fight. Myra's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, That's what it means to be human. The alien smiled faintly. Perhaps that is what it means to be alive. At the 20-minute mark, the air was so thin the crew could hardly stand. Mira fell to her knees, gasping. Haroon leaned against the wall, his hands trembling too much to hold his scanner. Jace clung to the console, like a drowning man to driftwood. Elias staggered, his vision swimming. Yet his voice rose again, strong and defiant. Stay awake. Stay breathing. We are almost there. The AI interrupted again. Warning. Survival impossible. Recommend termination of rescue. Attempt to preserve systems. Elias roared, his voice filled with fire. Shut up. Humanity does not quit. His shout echoed in the chamber. For a moment, it drowned even the sound of their choking breaths. Then At the edge of collapse, the signal came. A ping, stronger than before. Mira lifted her head weakly. The rescue ship is closer. They must have pushed their engines to the limit. Jace checked the console with trembling hands. His eyes widened. It took 15 minutes. 15 minutes. A lifetime and a heartbeat all at once. Elias clenched his fists. Hold on. Just hold on. But the survivors could not hold on. One of the humans on the floor went still, his chest no longer rising. Haroon dropped beside him, pressing hands against his chest, forcing rhythm into a heart that had already surrendered. Tears streamed down his face as he whispered, "Not yet. Not now." The alien stirred, lifting his head weakly. His voice rasped, "Save your strength. Some must live." Myra's voice broke as she shouted, "No! We save everyone. That's what we promised." But Haroon knew the truth. His hands slowed. The body beneath him did not rise again. Silence fell heavy. One was gone. The alien looked at Elias, his dim eyes steady. Sometimes choice is not yours. Sometimes death comes anyway. Elias's heart twisted, but his voice stayed strong. Then we fight for the rest. Until the very last. Minutes bled into eternity. The crew stumbled, fell, rose again. The survivors twitched faintly, their lives dangling by a thread. The alien's chest rattled, but he still whispered directions, guiding the ship's final course. And then, through the blur of stars, light appeared. A ship, human, racing toward them like an angel breaking through the void. Myra's eyes widened. "They're here," her voice cracked. "They're really here." Jace let out a laugh that turned into a cough. "I'll be damned. We made it." Haroon collapsed against the wall, tears falling freely. "They'll live. They'll all live." The alien looked out at the approaching vessel, his lips trembling. "You did not abandon me." Elias knelt beside him, gripping his shoulder. His voice was firm, unshaken even in exhaustion. "We told you, we don't abandon anyone." The rescue team stormed aboard minutes later, oxygen mask in hand. Medics rushed into every body on the floor. Fresh air filled the chamber like fire in their lungs. Mira gasped deeply, the sweetest breath she had ever known. Jace tore the mask from his face, laughing between sobs. Haroon clutched the survivors, crying openly, and Elias turned to the alien, who now breathed freely for the first time in hours. His eyes shone wet with gratitude. "Why?" the alien whispered. "Why risk all for me?" Elias's voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of 1,000 worlds. "Because we are human, and humans don't leave anyone behind." The alien closed his eyes, a faint smile on his lips. Not of surrender, but of peace. Later, when the report spread, the galaxy would shake with the story of how 6 lives had been saved on air meant for one, of how humanity had defied numbers, logic, and machines. Some called it foolishness. Others called it suicide. But for those who truly understood, it was something else. It was a choice. Humanity's choice. To stand together, no matter the odds. To fight for every life, even the aliens. To believe that survival was not just about breath in the lungs, but about honor in the heart. And in that choice, humanity had once again proved what it was made of, not machines, not numbers, but spirit. A spirit that refused to abandon. A spirit that refused to surrender. A spirit that, even in the endless night of space, burned brighter than the stars.